Hey guys, welcome to Restless Outdoors. So recently I received a comment on my Zpacks duplex tent in regards to the Cuben fiber and just how waterproof Cuben fiber was. Now in the article that he linked in the comment section, it basically stated that Cuben fiber was not necessarily waterproof, that it did absorb water, pretty much like any sil nylon tent or any tent that's out there. So I've had this duplex tent now for over a year. I've taken it out in snow, heavy rain, sunshine, I mean you name it. And I can safely say I've never received water in the tent. Obviously, condensation-wise, any single wall tent, you're gonna get condensation, you're gonna get moisture. But as far as a direct rain or snow sitting on top of the tent, I've never had moisture or water leak in. I'm not going to do the same test that this gentleman did, where he basically set up the tent and then sprayed it down, because this is where the controversy sort of lies, is the fact that because Cuben fiber, in my opinion, doesn't absorb water, it does pool water. And when you're putting the tents away, that's where you're going to get, obviously, the heavier weight of moisture in a tent, packing it away. It's gonna seem heavier because, again, to me, that water, if anything, is pooling. So what you need to do is wipe down the tent before you put it away. But regardless, I'm going to test today to see if actually, you know, this Cuben fiber does absorb water. I'm going to weigh it out when it's dry, and I'm going to soak it, and we're going to let it soak for at least, I don't know, maybe an hour or so. And then we're going to take it again, wipe it down, and then we're going to weigh that Cuben fiber one more time. Now, one bad thing about a tent, or any tent for that matter, is the fact that you have seams in there, you have the mesh. Any bit of water that even gets on that will, you know, the mesh is not waterproof, obviously. Water will kind of get interlocked inside the meshing. So that will contribute to added weight to your tent. So what I want to do is, instead of taking the tent, I have a Cuben fiber stuff sack here. Now this is actually an extra one that I have. Now, what I was going to do is just soak this in water for an hour and then pull it out and weigh it up. But to me, I can't really do that either because, again, if you look, you have a shock cord. I'll actually bring it up a little bit closer. So you have a shock cord, you have stitching, and I don't believe the stitching is seam tape, so this will actually absorb water. So that's not going to work for me. So unfortunately, the only thing I can do to really get a true test on this is to, I hate to say it, but I gotta cut a section out. But it's okay. It's worth testing just to prove that this is waterproof and it doesn't absorb water. Or I may be wrong, I don't know. I guess this is why I'm doing this. I'll be conducting two separate experiments. One is the actual soaking of the Cuben fiber in a glass of water. I'm going to cut a nice big section out, making sure that there's no seams and stuff. But this is the thing that you have to, you know, obviously be aware of. Wherever I cut in those edges, water could potentially absorb in there. So how I'm going to do it is, well, I'll show you how I'll do it, but I want to make sure I don't get water on the edges, because technically on a tent, there are no edges, they're all seamed, sealed, so water won't penetrate through. But I just want to see exactly, will it absorb water, kind of like a sponge? And then the other test I want to do is, you know, one thing about a sil nylon tent, I've owned many, many tents, when it rains and you get moisture on the outside, when you touch the inside of the tent, that water will draw in. And one thing I noticed with the duplex tent, it doesn't do that. You know, my sleeping bag will be touching the tent walls and it'll never absorb water. So I have an idea of how I want to test that. But anyways, I got my trusty purple scissors here, and it's okay. Again, I hate to cut this, but it is what it is. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut, oh boy. Wow. Well, purple scissors don't do a good job of cutting this. I may have to. All right, purple scissors, get away. We got a razor blade. A little bit dirty, but oh well. So let me see if I can do this without cutting myself here. Okay, that's a little bit better. Well, there we go. So this is where the seam is. Now obviously there is seam tape on here. which is good. So this part will not absorb water because of the seam tape. This will, though, obviously, because it looks like the stitching and the shock cord, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we don't need that. So what I'm going to do is cut this at the seam and rip it down here. Now what I want to do is take, actually let me see if there's a, nope, doesn't look like there's a seam here. So now I want to split this in half. So there we go, guys. So what I'm going to do is take one of the pieces of the cut up Cuben fiber and throw it on the scale, and let's see where we weigh at. Okay, so we are roughly at 2 grams, and the other piece, and this is the piece with the patch on there, throw that on there, and this one weighs, okay, perfect, 2 grams. And then what we're going to do is fill 2 cups with water. So without further ado, let's take this and, well, I guess we'll just sort of throw it in the water here. Hopefully, I may have to throw something inside here, but let it soak. Okay. And let's see, I think that should do it. So you can see it is pretty well submerged inside. All the edges are outside of the water, and let's see if this thing is actually waterproof. Now it's funny because my fingers did get wet, so I don't know why or where the water may have entered. Oh, I think I know why. Well, as I was pushing down, water kind of went inside, so, which is fine because I do want to really get the submerged inside, but as long as the edges are okay, we should be good to go. So, and it's submerged in there, and I'll show you another angle here. And you can see that there is definitely water inside and on top of the fabric. So we'll let that sit probably for a good, I don't know, hour, and we shall see when we come back, and then we'll do the other experiment. Okay guys, sorry, I actually lost the audio on this segment here, so let me overdub this. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the Cuben fiber piece along with the glass water. I did dump out a majority of the water just because, just in case this does fail and it does leak, I didn't want water all over the place. So I did knock the water down just quite a bit. Now I'm just wiping down the countertop, making sure there's no moisture, and I'm laying down some toilet paper. So when I do turn the glass with the Cuben fiber on there, it will show a lot easier with the moistened paper towel. So what I'm doing here is going to take the Cuben fiber, and I'm going to just place it onto the glass, and we're going to use a rubber band here, and hopefully once we put the rubber band on, we're going to overturn it, and we will come back again within the hour and see if there's any moisture on here.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal.
So about an hour has gone by, a little bit over an hour, and with our 2 experiments, one is soaking the Cuben fiber in water to see if it actually absorbs that water, and then the other experiment is the Cuben fiber with the water inside on the other side. And again, we have the piece of toilet paper here, so once I lift up the glass, hopefully we'll see that it's dry. After an hour, I mean, think about it, when it's raining, it's just water droplets. This is actually standing water on Cuben fiber. So one thing to note too, this is a lighter weight Cuben fiber than what I have on my tent. I have the 0.74 ounce in that spruce green, so it's a lot heavier weight than this Cuben fiber, and essentially it's just a stuff sack. So if this holds up well, then I'm going to feel very confident that the spruce green Zpacks duplex tent will even do, you know, it'll far surpass what water I guess, proofness this has. So let's get this guy lifted up. Okay, so what we're going to do is lift up on here, and again, you can see that the water is still inside. The paper towels, or the toilet tissues, actually seem, they're dry. There's no water on here. It does feel cool because obviously the water was touching this, but it's not wet. So from what I can see here. Now the other test is running my hand up underneath, so we can just, I guess, say that this is like skin touching the inside of the tent or the outside of the tent, whatever you want to say, and will water actually pull up or draw through, and it actually seems very dry. So that's a good test right there. Obviously it's not soaking through, and we're going to weigh that up too. And then we might as well take this guy out of here too. And obviously there's going to be some water in here, but let me see if I can carefully pull this out without getting the edges wet. But there we go. Okay, well, I got the little bit of the edge wet, but it's okay. So this is obviously pretty soaked. And what I'm going to do is just wipe it down with a towel. I'm not going to soak it up or nothing like that, just completely wipe it down. And let me grab this, and I should wipe down the counter too because there's still a little bit of water did spill. Let me get that out of the way. Okay, so sorry about that. So it looks pretty dry, but let me do this and just grab some toilet paper, and this will really ensure that this has been dried. And let's see here. Okay, so this feels pretty dry, and let's get it on the scale and see if it actually retained any of that moisture. Okay, there we go. So we're zeroed out. So we're going to take the first piece here, and this is the one that was soaked in the cup. And let's see if it actually, okay guys, we're exactly the same at 2 grams for that. And we'll take the other one here and take this off. And obviously you can almost see, oh, now I didn't purposely wipe this down. This has some water residue. I just want to see, okay. So again, this kind of proves what I was trying to point out, is the fact that any residual water that will be on this piece of Cuben fiber will obviously stick and cling to the Cuben fiber. So this does show that it's 3 grams. So let me take this and wipe this down. Again, I'm not wringing it out, I'm just wiping it down and getting any type of residual water that's off of here. And again, we didn't have any of the edges absorbing that water, so, and it seems, let me get this real quick. This will really dry it out. Still feel a little bit of water here, but okay, we're good, guys. And drop that down. Let me bundle that up. There you go. Okay, let me reweigh this. Turn it off. Turn it on. Okay. Now I didn't want to, okay, 1.52. So again, I'm showing that it doesn't absorb the water. I don't want to cut this segment because I don't want people, you know, claiming that, well, you let it dry and blah, blah, blah. This is just actually taking it out and looking here. So hopefully this proves and dispels the fact that Cuben fiber absorbs water just like any other tent. Cuben fiber is really an amazing piece of material. And again, there we go. That's the way it should be, 2 grams, just like it weighed before. So I hope this little experiment that I did shed some light on the waterproofness of Cuben fiber, the fact that it doesn't absorb water. Again, in time, the PU coating on here will wear down. Again, just like in any tent. But initially, this thing holds up amazingly well. Just having water directly on the surface here for an hour, and the fact that it didn't absorb through, again, it's just peace of mind for me knowing that this thing is going to essentially protect me in any type of wet weather. Again, I'll note that this is the lighter weight Cuben fiber, so anyone looking at getting the tent that I had, which is the 0.74, obviously that's a lot thicker, a lot heavier weight. If this can take it, then obviously that spruce green duplex is going to serve you well for many, many years. Jason, I appreciate the comments, and I had fun making this little video showing, and again, I'm not a scientist by any means. This is just my means of, hey, let's test this out. What other ways, we can really see the durability and the waterproofness of that of the Cuben fiber. So guys, if you have any questions, or if there's anything that I missed, or any other, obviously this is probably going to be controversial, because people are going to say, well, I did the best that I could. So given what I had, I really didn't want to rip up and ruin a Cuben fiber stuff sack, but I think it was worth just to see exactly what this stuff is made of. So again, guys, please comment below. Let me know, again, if you have any other questions, and I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks.